Hello Ben and Sophie. I've got a little story about the farm, slightly different from the last one. You can see it's a cattle farm, a dairy farm, and Mr. Jones, the farmer, and his wife, Mrs. Jones, have this dairy farm. You know the routine that the cattle are brought to the milking pens and the calves are kept in a separate paddock there. And but Mr. Jones has a problem, because when he goes over to look at the calves, check the calves, he's found one or two missing. Now, that's not unusual, because some of these calves are a bit frisky and they can jump over and go off into the bush. And sometimes the hurdle there is a bit flimsy and they can squeeze through. But anyway, he's a bit worried because he's lost a number. Anyway, he'll have to think about it, and he goes to bed that night, and what happens in the middle of the night? Two men appear, rough-looking men. They creep up in the dark. One's got a rope, the other's got a pitchfork. They open the hurdle, they take out one of the calves, they put a rope around its neck, I can't do that, and they take it away. They push that back before they go, and they take the calf all the way through the hills, through the woods, and look what they've got here. They made a bit of a pen by the cave, and they've got a mate with a gun, and these men are cattle duffers. That's what you call them in Australia, or rustlers. They steal cattle. Now, they're going to try and steal as many as they can, and then they'll load up this trailer, and there'll be a truck coming to pull it away, and they'll sell all those calves for a lot of money. So they're thieves, but as I say, they're called cattle rustlers or cattle duffers. And you can see it's got a camouflage net over the trailer so no one notices. Anyway, next day, Farmer Jones, well, he would have been in bed, but anyway, he comes back and he counts the calves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. One missing. And he just doesn't know what's going on. Anyway, that day, Sophie and her best friend, Rosie, are going to ride their horses, because they keep their ponies on the farm. This is Sophie on the white horse, and that's Rosie. Rosie's her best friend, but she's got another best friend called Aria, and she's feeding her foal. A little bit too young yet to ride, but she's another best friend. Anyway, they want to go for a ride, and Farmer Jones says, look, can you do something for me? Can you look for some missing calves out in the bush? They're probably just found some nice grass to eat somewhere. So you just have a look for them. And Mrs. Jones said, you can take a picnic. What would you like in your picnic? And Sophie says, well, I like bread and butter. But Rosie says, I like toast and jam. But Mrs. Jones says, well, why don't we have some sandwiches filled with cheese and ham? So off they go with the picnic. And as they go along, they sing a little song about their picnic. I like bread and butter, I like toast and jam. We're gonna have some sandwiches filled with cheese and ham. Well, I like bread and butter, I like toast and... Moo! What was that? Said Sophie. Well, we heard something. It could be the calves. So they carry on. They're looking everywhere. And Sophie goes up on a rise and looks around, can't see anything. And then again they hear moo. So somewhere around here, those calves have to be. And they're a little bit frightened because they haven't been to this part of the bush before, and there's some wild dogs and poisonous snakes and things. But anyway, they hear it again. So Sophie says, I'm going to have a look. I'm going to climb the hill and and see what I can see. So she goes round. There's a path up the side of the hill, as you can see. And she goes all the way up. Has to be careful, it's a bit steep. And she gets to there, and then she sees a man with a gun. Oh, she's a bit worried about that. And they can still hear the occasional moo. So she goes down, and she knows about this cave. She goes down the cave, and what does she see when she gets to the bottom of the cave? The calves in this little pen. So back they come, and she gets on a horse again. And they've got to think what to do. They've all got mobile phones, of course, and Rosie says, what about your brother Ben, who's in the army? Isn't he doing some exercises near here? Of course, Ben's a captain now in the Australian army, and they come out to these wild places to practice. So Sophie phones him up, and here's Ben with some of his soldiers. Ben's wearing the red beret, and you can tell they're Australian soldiers because they're wearing what are called slouch hats. They always have the brim turned up like that. Anyway, she phones him up and says, we've got a terrible problem. There's some cattle duffers, and they've taken all the calves, or most of the calves, and we don't know what to do. And well, he says, you better watch for a while, see what happens. Phone back to the farm, tell Aria and tell Mr. Jones what's happening, and we'll see what we can do. So they come out to where they can see, there's a bit of a road going round to the cave, and they sort of hide behind the rocks. Oops, let's just put it on properly. There we are. Anyway, they hear the sound of a truck. A big 8-wheel truck, here it comes. Well, that's unusual, we don't have trucks down this track very often. I bet it's come to collect the calves. And it reverses in, and they get rid of the camouflage netting, and they connect the trailer to the truck, and they've put all the calves in. Some of them have to lie down a bit easier. There we are. Some are sitting already. And they were planning to come back to steal more, but 6 is enough for the time being. Right. Anyway, they're about to go off, so Sophie phones Ben and says, quick, what can we do? There's a truck with the stolen calves and it's going to get away and they're going to sell them. So what do we do? And Ben says, well, we could block the road because we're using a 1960s Centurion tank, which is the best tank the Australian Army has at the moment, and we could block the road with it. Oh, good. Okay, do that. And the truck comes along. Oh, and it has to stop. And all the soldiers surround the truck. Now, they're not policemen. They're not really allowed to arrest anyone, but they're there and they can frighten these men. And I better put the man there. The man drops his gun. He doesn't want to get in. See, he can drop his pistol. Throw down your weapons. And he stands there. And the other two, they get out of the cab. And this man, well, he throws down his pitchfork. Of course, that's a weapon. All right, and they're just waiting. And the next thing is, we better phone the police. The local policeman comes along, all the way from wherever it is, on his motorbike. And he thanks everyone for doing their job. And he calls for backup. And they arrest the 3 men. And that's the end of the story. Except, of course, all the calves are taken back to the farm. And Mr. Jones is very grateful indeed. That's the end. Bye-bye.